Alright, now let's get in and work on those arms. So, pretty straightforward. And remember, we're still working with the T-pose mesh. We're still saving this T-pose project. So we're still going up into plugins, save TM, and saving everything that way. Okay, so first one we want to deal with is the deltoid. And let's be clear about a couple of things. So in fact, why don't we, in order to see this better, why don't we look just at these guys, just at the deltoid and the skeleton. Okay, you can see the head of the humerus in here. We've got our attachment roughly in the right place, and we've got our origins roughly in the right place. So now we've got our clavicle, acromion process, and now we need to work on the bulk of this muscle. And a lot of that bulk is below that halfway point. So keep that in mind. What we're going to be doing is coming in with inflate. And we're going to start to inflate towards its attachment. Let's just make sure it connects. Okay. And move with the Acu curve on. Just wanted to get that a little better. Okay, but not enough. Still got to inflate a little up here, coming out of that acromion process. So remember, you've got multiple heads. You've got the acromial portion, the clavicular portion, and the scapula, the spine of the scapula portion. So now the acromial head is going to get a little of attention. Then we're going to be pulling from the scapular, or the scapular portion. That's going to be reaching around the front. The clavicular portion is going to also be reaching around. Now keep in mind with the clavicular portion, we're talking about that ending roughly halfway. But remember, as a muscle builds, these things start to creep a little bit. So it's going to grow downwards, start to interfere and redistribute its wealth, so to speak. And we're really going to get quite round. There we go. Something like that I'm okay with. Of course, it depends on the person, how this muscle develops. Depends on their activity, a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. But now let's clear that out, and from a distance, that definitely looks like nice, strong shoulders. Okay, maybe a little too strong, so we can use move and just start to tuck that in a little bit towards the top. There we go. Okay, next one, bicep. So let's go inflate, and do I still have mask by polygroup? I do. So we're going to increase this nearly, I'd say 75%. Keep in mind though, don't just willy-nilly increase it. Keep in mind this particular curvature and respect the tendon and the attachment. You can build up to that, but then try to be really conscious about the form that you're creating. Okay, let's focus on the bicep and the skeleton. And I'm going to just make sure that the growth continues. Let's turn M off, that's not needed. Yes, so we're going to creep up the attachments with this growth in volume. Par for the course. And then let's get it to hang a little pendulously inwards. Okay, so as the weight increases, obviously the vectors are going to cause it to swing in. Just the vectors of attachment, I should say, just to be clear on what I'm talking about. Not too shabby. It's quite bulky. I'm not confident. I think that might be too much. So I'm going to tone that down a bit. And this illustrates a particular question that we might have. We did not really alter the pectoralis's insertion. We just left it where it was. But as you increase the bulk of that bicep, obviously you're pushing out in all directions. So technically speaking, it needs to be adjusted. So we're going to do this aesthetically. Let's do move, and I got to turn mask by polygroup off. Otherwise it's just going to get confused. Let's hide the deltoid. Got to remember that the pectoralis is going to move around the bicep in terms of its insertion, its origin, and all that. It completely encapsulates the tendon of the bicep. So I'm just making sure that that happens. And let's give a little bit more of a lift in there. Okay, I'm going to sink it in there real tight. Real tight. Like it's getting very thin here. Because really what's happening is I'm starting to trudge on the deltoid's territory. And I do not want to do that. Okay, and there we go. Now, last thing, let's just make sure that the deltoid has some recognition of that. So what you can do is just move this out a little bit. When we inflated, it tended to inflate internal and external, and so I'm just lifting that transition plane so I can get these guys to sit with each other a little bit better. There we go. Okay, you can always come in, H polish, and just kind of tamp down where they connect. and start to establish just some planarity to some of this that can help you understand a little bit more about where it is, and it's also important in terms of establishing some kind of shape, because you just don't want it to be a bunch of bubbled forms. You want some planarity. You want to understand that the acromial portion has a distinct shape. You want to understand that the portion coming from the scapula is really kind of dominating that lower part. It's wrapping around, things like that. Okay. There we go. Quite happy. Let's check for my back, check my measurements, because I feel like I'm off. But I'm not. What's off is the rest of everything else. So let's get in there and start to correct all that stuff. And back to turning mask by polygroups on. Like that. Alright. Next one that's going to have the most impact is adjusting the tricep.